Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Your support really does make a huge difference. You'll find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org/contribute. Thank you so much.
So this moment came about because we all have tacos on Tuesdays, Loving Presence and tacos right down the road, which anybody who happens to be in town is welcome to join. And we were all talking one morning, and Whit had just returned from Blue Cliff in New York. And I don't know if everyone knows Whit, but he is a longtime Sangha member and board member for Appamada right now, currently. And I thought that I was just so inspired by his story when he came back from Blue Cliff, and my immediate heart intent just was like, oh, I just want everybody to hear this story and the encouragement of this story. And then I started thinking, well, also how cool, because Whit's on the board, and how often do we get to, sit and talk with a board member and really get into that world in terms of what's happening here at Appamada. So I said, hey, why don't you come and tell this story with me, and let's just have a discussion about what this brought up for both of us. So I guess I'd just like to invite Whit to now introduce himself in any way he wants to and share that story.
Sure, yeah, thanks. I think I probably came to Appamada more than 10 or 11 or 12 years ago, because I actually went to a retreat at Plum Village, which is the Thich Nhat Hanh tradition in France, and I came in to the Zendo here, and I remember Peg was sitting up there, and I said that I had been to this, this center, this retreat, and I was thinking of starting my own Sangha. and she, I think she sort of chuckled a little bit and said, does anyone here know how much effort it takes to to run and start a Sangha? And I think at that moment I had a lot of wise second thoughts that Peg gave me about that project. So subsequently I started attending here, and it's been wonderful, and it's great to see all of you. And the story that I told Jessica was this recent time that in the summer that I visited Blue Cliff, and it was only 4 days, and I went there with my wife and daughter, and on one of the last Dharma talks, it was a question and answer session. And so the talk before that, they had given a talk about the levels of consciousness, and I mean, it was very heartfelt, but there is a little bit of sort of intellectual exposition on it and so on. And so this woman that was a counselor or therapist or something had a question, and then she was asking about a specific level of this, the level of consciousness. And the nun that decided to answer the question said, that the Dharma talk there is there for support of your practice, and if you don't sort of resonate with it or understand it right away, then it might be best just to let it go. And that was just so deeply allowing, and it was just it was almost like an invitation to, in each moment, return to the practice. If you're stuck in thinking, then return to the joy of breathing and to the practice. And she almost implied, I think, what I've heard ascribed to the Buddha as well, which is the if this doesn't work for you, then everything needs to be something that you know to be truthful in your own practice. Which, given how many versions of these talks that we get, and that, you know, it's been translated so many times and so many schools and so on, that's kind of like that calibrating factor. So
yeah,
that's the story that I shared.
And when Whit shared that story with me, I just teared up. It touched me so deeply. And I've since, you know, since I said, hey, come share this with me, I thought, why did that touch me so deeply? And I think that it's really about that. It's really about that allowing. It's really about meeting so deeply in the moment someone else that you can see how to release their suffering just a little bit, how to just make a little space around whatever it is that they're suffering around. And that's what I heard that nun do. And I identify with the person who's trying to fix it, who's trying to figure it out, you know, who's trying a lot of different things and almost creating my own suffering because I'm trying so hard. And so that little release of just, maybe it's okay to just let that go until it comes to you in a real way, was really beautiful. And so then Whit shared a song with our group that also blew my mind. And that's essentially the remainder of our time together this morning. We're gonna just unpack this experience just a little bit, because I put the bold title, The End of Suffering, for the invitation today. And I know that that's a bold thing to say, especially with everything that is going on in the world. And so, you know, I don't have to explain what suffering is, not by any means, right? We all know what suffering is. And in our daily practice here at Appamada, we have the 4 practice principles, right? We have the chants that help us remember these practice principles, these 4 noble truths. So we had thought that we could just say those together. Whoever the online monitor is.
There isn't one.
Oh, there isn't one. Okay. So if you know it, please feel free to chant along with us. And if you don't, feel free to just listen.
And we'll just be doing the four lines.
Yeah, the
Right.
4 lines, and then we'll just kind of unpack those a little bit together. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. So sometimes we hear these 4 noble truths translated as, you know, suffering exists, there is suffering. And so we say, caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. For the longest time, I took this really personally, which probably says a lot about my conditioning. But I thought, look at me, I'm caught in the self-centered dream again. You know, it was a little bit like this. And then I found Gabor Mate, and just the other day I heard him saying, you know how to make a baby suffer? You break contact with the baby. You know how to make a baby feel shame? You break contact. And I thought, who hasn't had that? I mean, no parent can actually attend to a child all the time. And so we've all experienced, even before we remember experiencing, the shame of contact being broken with us. So there is suffering. And that softened the way that I was looking at this verse, caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. It actually relieved my guilt about it, to see it from that lens of just a baby losing contact. And then the second one, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. So there are all these causes of suffering, right? Just like the baby not being attended to in just a moment's time. The cessation of suffering, that's really that's where we can taste something here. The cessation of suffering. So each moment, life as it is, being just this moment. Life as it is, just this moment. Each moment. And the invitation to me here is to return to our wholeness, return to the remembrance of our true nature. And I think that's what Thich Nhat Hanh talks about in this chant for the bell that you shared. So each moment, life as it is, the only teacher being just this moment, compassion's way. And that speaks to right view. I honestly, y'all, the Eightfold Path, I didn't understand how that solved suffering for the longest time. And I don't know that I still do, but I know that right view is returning to that remembrance, remembering who we and what we really are. And in that moment, we can relieve our own suffering. We can return to joy in this moment.
Share about I would like to share about the practice of the bell as I was taught at in this Thich Nhat Hanh tradition, and I'll say I was in the dining area behind us, and there's a large calligraphy there that says, I think it's translated as this miraculous moment. And so the practice of the bell, we're going to have in this talk a periodic sound of the bell from our dear bell master here. And so at the end of Buddha's life, apparently he said the words appamada, which I think probably everyone here knows is mindful, energetic care. And so this practice of the bell is really appamada with the bell. And so it's taking care of the bell in the most mindful way. And so the person inviting, as they say in the tradition, inviting the bell is, before they invite the bell, taking care of their breathing and being mindful and getting ready to invite the bell. And one of the practices that they do there that relates to this is they just touch the bell just very lightly, and it's almost just like it gets everyone prepared for a really full sound of the bell, so that when that full sound of the bell arrives, we're all ready to practice our breathing. and enjoy this moment. And so and also in between each sound of the bell, there's 3 in and out breaths. And so that space is so connecting to the sound of the bell, and also the space and time for us to enjoy this breathing and this wonderful moment. And then the person that invites the bell repeats to themselves a gatha that I'll read to you. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow.
You got all that, John?
Maybe you could pass this over to.
So I say that.
You could say it to yourself, or as you get ready to, or just before you sound the bell.
To me, what's really rich and sweet about that is the idea of your heart going out with the sound of the bell. I just think that's so lovely. I had not heard that before. But it makes sense, you know, your hand is connected to your heart, and as you invite the sound, you're sending out your heart into the cosmos.
And then the hearers respond in kind, and they are mindful, enjoying their breathing, and really enjoying this wonderful moment, and saying, and they're, to themselves, they're really repeating the gatha, listening to the bell, which I'll read also. Listening to the bell, I feel my afflictions begin to dissolve. My mind is calm, my body relaxed, a smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breathing guides me back to the safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the flower of peace blooms beautifully.
And so as the listeners, we're invited to listen. Listen. Return to your true nature.
So, shall we try?
I would like to ask for some clarification. First, I touch the bell up lightly, and then I ring it. And then do I read inviting the bell, that part?
No, just before you invite the bell, you just say that to yourself, the inviting the bell gatha.
Okay.
And then you do the light touching, and then you invite the bell to sound, and then you do the 3 in and out breaths.
Okay. And is there another ringing at the end of the 3 in and out breaths?
And then there's one more, and then there's another 3 in and out breaths, and then one more, so it's a total of 3 sounds of the bell.
Okay, 2 in and out breaths.
So you're gonna
3 in
ring,
and out breaths.
you're gonna ring the bell 9 times essentially, 3 times with 3 breaths in between, then I'll read something. And then 3 times again, I'll read another verse, and then 3 times again. Does that make sense?
So we have in and out breaths 3 different times.
Yeah, so just breathe 3 breaths between each bell. And whatever you do will be just right,
Okay. And so we're gonna have 2 readings? I guess we'll just say.
We can prompt you when,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
so let's,
Yeah. I love what you wrote here. I want to just emphasize that you said When listening to the sound of the bell, let it invite you to remember. It sings to your Buddha nature already residing in you. It invites you to flourish, the one in all of us, united beyond all boundaries. Take a moment to settle into your seat, get your body comfortable. You can close your eyes if you like, or leave them just resting. And then if you're the bell ringer, connect your heart to the bell. And if you're the listeners, intend to listen and allow the sound to help you remember who you really are. May the sound of this bell penetrate deep into the cosmos. Even in the darkest spots, living beings are able to hear it clearly, so that all suffering in them ceases and understanding comes to their heart. And they transcend the path of sorrow and death. The universal Dharma door is already open. The sound of the rising tide is heard clearly. The miracle happens. A beautiful child appears in the heart of a lotus flower. One single drop of this compassionate water is enough to bring back the refreshing springs to our mountains and rivers. Listening to the bell, I feel the afflictions in me begin to dissolve. My mind calm, my body relax. A smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breath brings me back to the safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the flowers of peace bloom beautifully.
when we hear the sound of the bell, it's the voice of the Buddha calling us to our own Buddha nature, to remember. And it's that vibrating through all of us. And more important than thinking, stopping thinking and being in this moment.
So we would love to invite any discussion or thoughts or experiences, any sharing that you might have. Here.
What a beautiful practice. Thank you so much for this. I think that really, I've never considered the bell in the way that you just described it, when as like calling us back to our true nature and sending that out within. And thank you, Joan, for doing that. That was really beautiful. Yeah, it makes me, I feel like you've opened up another little layer of my practice that I can now invite that in when I hear the bell. It's not just a cue to do something, you know. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Hi, Darcy.
I think we're not
There we
here.
go.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, I just want to thank you for this. This was lovely. Yeah, I love the poetry that you read, Jessica, and the bell. Always loved the bell. And isn't there a Basho poem about the bell? The sound of the bell continues to come out the flowers. You know, I've always loved that. But with this, it felt like those words, those beautiful lines you read, and the bell just caused it to just keep flowing out, 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 just like a river, you know? It was just lovely. Yeah, and the Whit, when you were talking about what the nun said, it was that allowing, anyway, I just wanted to, let's see if I can find it here. I wanted to bring in the Shin Ming because, you know, that's what we're studying. And it was just, to me, so much what it's saying in the Shin Ming. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So, I mean, talking about the Tao and the beauty of it's, you know, all one. And then he says, the more you think about these matters, the farther you are from the truth. Step aside from all thinking, and there's nowhere you can't go. And it's like, you know, words are so helpful. And when you feel them in your body right away, great. But, you know, don't get stuck in that thinking. And this was just such an embodied way of helping us realize what the Shin Ming is saying. So thank you.
Thanks for adding that richness, Darcy, of the Shin Ming, and that's Whit quotes that one to us often.
Because you quoted it often.
So it's
John
just so
Eric as
cool
well.
that you brought it back to the Shin Ming.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, when you said that, I thought I always welcome some comment on the show. In fact, John Eric also had at one of our practice discussions, maybe like, where I'm gonna date us now,
It's been
maybe 8 years ago or something like that, he had mentioned the Bhagavad Gita, and so I started reading the commentary from Eknath Swaran, who my father followed like 30 or 40 years ago, and he in there at one point mentions that the word Dharma is, in the Sanskrit origin of that, it means, it's kind of involved with the meaning support. And so I thought of that story that I told at the beginning, where the nun responded, almost like, if the Dharma is not supporting you, then maybe that's not the Dharma for you. Maybe it's not supporting you, in other words. So I found that helpful also.
What is the point? Joan.
Well, I just have to mirror what everyone said. Whoa, let's do this again. That was wonderful. And I've had this need to say what I'm gonna say and wondering why, and quit talking about it supporting you. Explains it that Flint gave us this bell. And I just feel his love when I hear the bell.
And he gave us the little bell too, and you could hold that up so they could see it. And it's like the little
A little version.
baby bell, yeah. And it has the same markings on it as the bigger bell.
But it's not nearly so beautiful.
Kathy.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
It's great to see you.
Thank you both. It's good to see you. Yeah, when I'm in Ireland, they ring the bell out. And just as we did, or I did this morning, the depth of my breath goes deeper. And I follow that bell right to the end. And it's just a deeper experience for me. And then the other thing I thought I'd mention, Roshi Kennedy, who has Morningstar Zen out of New Jersey. He's 91 now, and he was in Ireland with us. And I went to a premiere of a film of his life in Galway. And the name of the film is Are We One? So, Jessica, when you said something about we're one with the bell and no boundaries, that's what it reminded me of. Are we one? Thank you.
Kathy, is it still accurate that you are also a board member?
I'm sorry?
Are you still on the board as well?
No, not now. No.
Previous board member, okay. I just thought that was a wonderful coincidence, perhaps. Thank you for that, Kathy. Jeanette.
Hi, it's so lovely to be here with you all. Yesterday in Women in Zen, we explored a koan called Asan's Rooster, in which a lay woman heard a rooster and said, "The fields, the mountains, the flowers, and my body too are the voice of the bird. What is left that can be said to hear?" And when we did our exploration period, I wrote these things, which are rough, but I really feel like you're calling forth what reverberation means and vibration, and how this moves through all being without belonging to any place or person. One clear note, a single stroke, of a singing bowl. Echo, echo, echo. All being reverberates with one voice. And then the second one is, one voice sings them all, the waters, the heathers, the beings of blood and breath, bone, stone, and all.
Thank you for your Dharma talk.
Thank you.
Ooh, that touched me very deeply. I'd ask you to send it out if it's, if you want to do that. Or at least send it to me.
Send it out.
Another, just if I may insert one other comment, that the one of the practices that they also do in this Plum Village Tikkun Han tradition is they have other sounds of the bell, if you will, in a way, because they have, for example, a clock out next to where people drink tea, and they just, I'm sure some of you have experienced this there, where you know how those clocks that like of the UT, where they every 15 minutes, the Carilion has like a little pattern to it, and so they'll do those, and then when you first come there, they ask everyone, and so the tradition is that everyone stops if they're walking or talking or whatever they're doing, just stop, focus on one's breath, and enjoy this wonderful moment. And so there's this constant return, constant hearing of the voice of the Buddha to return to one's true nature, the true part of ourselves that are all reverberating and connecting together.
Well, I would like to request, if you're comfortable with it, sending us what you read to us. That was so lovely.
Yeah, that's a poem from Thich Nhat Hanh. Sorry, it's hard to tell. Oh, Rosemarie.
Hi, thank you so much. Someone said embodied, and that was really how this whole thing felt. Actually, I had a question about the questioner, Whit, at your retreat. So the response, I wasn't sure if it meant allow these chants, these things that we're talking about to flow through you. That's one way to interpret the response. To not think, so not try to pinpoint so hard. And the other way would be to say, this might not be for you. So I wasn't sure about that.
Oh, I see. Do you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was she had, the questioner had, just to remind everyone, sort of a question about how to apply that, or how to understand it, and she hadn't quite understood it, and she wanted to apply it to her own kind of vocation, if you will. But it was really about letting go of the efforting that she was in, rather than this is beyond you. There wasn't anything that sounded like, she was very skillful, I think, in her answers, so that it didn't sound like that it was any message like it's beyond you, or it was just more of like, don't effort to try to think too much about this. Just
Thank you.
not be for you right now, you know.
Yes, thanks. And the other thing was that Jessica, when you were talking about what happens when we have that, when the baby separates from the mother and then, reconnect, and was reminding me of in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, when Suzuki Roshi's talking about the nirvana and the waterfall. I don't know if you remember this, but it's the water's all together, and in birth, it all gets separated, and then practice at the bottom, it's reunited. And we're remembering to come back to our oneness. So that was what that reminded me of. So.
Thank you for that memory of that teaching, Rosemary. That is such a beautiful teaching in Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind.
Thank you for this.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rosemary, for your question and comment.
Hi, Norma. Hi.
Howdy. So great to see you.
So great to see you.
And I just want to thank you both. And just to reiterate, how deeply beautiful this was. I appreciated your referencing the difficulties going on in our world, because it just makes the thing whole in some way. And I can say to an official board person, I am so grateful that you record these Dharma talks, because I'm going to put on my voice memo the whole bell sequence and carry it around with me and pop it like an anti-anxiety medication or something, at important moments. So again, thank you, and so good to see you.
Thank you, Norma.
Thank you. You're welcome.
That reminded me of when we were sitting in inquiry that night with Flint, and he said, and I was going, I can't believe it's this great. All these people are here. Everybody's so loving. What is this? This is incredible. How could it be this good? And he said, it's the restoration of joy. Do you remember that, Norma?
Mm-hmm.
This is the restoration of joy.
And the liberation of the intimacy naturally inherent in every moment.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah.
I think Bridget has her hand.
Oh, Bridget. Sorry, I don't see you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't raise my hand electronically. Apparently I didn't sign in correctly, but you were kind enough to admit me. I teared up when you all made your introduction of this. It touched me very, very deeply. And then to go through this sequence, just being guided by Joan's timing of the bells through with her breath, it was just exquisite. I feel deeply moved and at the same time grounded in this practice by doing this together.
Oh, thank you so much, Bridget. What a
I want to just mention one other thing about the beautiful, beautiful meditative exercise that you led us in. That about 10 years ago, I read an amazing book about William, I believe it's William Faraday and Robert Maxwell. Faraday was an English tinkerer who discovered all kinds of things about electromagnetism. And a generation later, the Scottish mathematician Maxwell came along and turned his discoveries into laws, the laws of electromagnetism. And what I've read is statements from physicists and natural philosophers of that time who were so shocked because they discovered that what Maxwell's equations showed is that every vibration is infinite. Every single one. That includes bells. It includes the electric wires in the walls that are vibrating in the same way that we, in a way that we can't hear, because our ears are set up for certain frequencies, and bells are created by human beings to respond to those frequencies. but there's the way in which everything both vibrates and dampens out. You know, the vibrations are infinite, but they do disappear from being apprehensible because they mix in with other vibrations and they just go into the background noise. You know. Anyway, that just was so powerful for me when I read that, and I thought of it today while we were doing this beautiful thing. You know, and the wallboard behind you has atoms that are vibrating, and we just can't hear it, you know. And to me, it's important to remember that what we consider noise is actually the same beautiful vibration as what comes from the bell.
Thank you, Joel. I just adore you so much, and I love how you bring the poetry to the science, and you do so clearly that it just opens hearts. Thank you.
You're kind, thank you.
Okay, I think that's about what we have time for.